All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is just a few minutes past 7 o'clock. Welcome to Drive Time Discussions. My name is Fola, and Mazino is here with us on Drive Time Discussions.
Where else would I be? I work here. Keep answering me like as if I'm like, okay, it's just
what?
I work here now.
Okay, yeah, you work here, but you know how it is.
Yes, indeed, of course.
Yes, we have a guest in the building. His name is Franklin. Okay, I told you the last time you were here, I said I was not going to call you a guest anymore because, you know.
I mean, I'm literally part of the
You're
furniture
pretty
at this point.
You're pretty much part of the discussions at this point. Franklin is here again.
Thank you.
Our resident, what's that name now? Social conscious. I don't want to call you woke.
Oh God, it's never used as a compliment.
Yes, it's
So
never used as a compliment.
used as a compliment.
I'm not going to call you woke, but when it comes to social conscious issues, Franklin is always our go-to guy. And this evening we're looking at African parents or Nigerian parents to be specific. So over the weekend or just a few days, I think it was on Friday or so, social media was all agog because people have started to talk again about Nigerian parents. Actually, not the first time. I remember there was a time, some time ago, if you know Ozzy, he told me she's always stirring up all sorts of trouble online. So,
my favorite troublemaker.
yeah, Ozzy Itomi said Nigerian parents are shockingly entitled and bold. And of course, there was all sorts of reactions to that. And then a few days ago, we had Nigerian Toke Makiwa herself, who said that, Nigerian parents are toxic and something along those lines. She actually made she
said they were the worst.
They're the worst, yes. And then people started to talk about how toxic their parenting, the kind of parenting they experienced was and everything. And even you, I remember I've seen several tweets from you where you talked about, parenting and toxicity and all of that. So Nigerian millennials are essentially saying that,
We've had it.
they've had enough.
We've had it.
A lot of people are claiming to wanting to be better parents, to also knowing better than their parents now. But the question is, do they really know better? Can you say until you become a parent? And all these claims about being raised in a toxic environment and being abused and being verbally and emotionally terrorized and all these things, does it have any merit? Mazino is a parent.
Oh, okay, well,
so
that wasn't the direction I was going, but I was about to ask, were you terrorized as a kid?
I should ask you first.
Well, I think for the time and age that we grew up, it was necessary the way we grew up.
It was necessary?
It was. Otherwise, I don't know.
No.
This guy's
okay.
I've not even landed.
Oh yeah, land first.
This is my opinion.
Okay.
And,
Sure.
It's subject to
Debate.
Exactly, debate. But I just think that there was no jumping the gun. There was no jumping our parents being the way they were to our kids now being what they are.
Okay.
We had to go through that process of that generational bridge of, okay, we're gonna raise you up like this, and eventually you're gonna have to raise your kids up in a much more
better way.
I wouldn't say better. That would be saying our parents did a bad job.
Okay.
And I don't think they did. I mean, I turned out good. You turned out good. Yeah, he turned out
The jury's
good.
still out on
The jury's still out on his case.
So it was that's what I mean by
Yeah.
it was necessary.
I don't know. Look around Lagos. Did we turn out good?
Okay.
Did we not?
Okay.
Did we turn out good? Look around Nigeria. Let's not be dishonest about this.
Was that our parents'
See.
responsibility?
So here's the thing. So people feel loyal, a sense of loyalty. Oh, let me not trash my parents. So,
Naturally.
naturally, and I get that. And it's important that we understand where the flaws with this style of parenting is, so that we can do better. And I was having a conversation on Twitter the other day, and I was talking about someone who makes skits. I just would rather not name names, but someone makes skits on Instagram. She makes really good skits, really funny skits.
I remember that one.
Yes, but in every skit, so the mother character would give her a heavy slap, like in literally every skit. And one day I said, this girl is actually funny without the slaps. And in the middle of all of this, so we're laughing and we're showing it. I hope people understand that this is violent, this is abusive parenting. And can we also all commit to be better parents? So my concern is that if we do not understand a lot of the things we saw or we experienced, we're not okay. I knew people who were flogged and they bled because they wanted to correct them. And I keep saying, I even had this conversation in the office today. My colleagues are listening. I even had this conversation in the office today, and I told them, I'm sorry, but this sort of treatment is for animals. And look around you, the average Nigerian cannot stand up to authority. Myself inclusive.
Okay, hang on.
No, wait, let me finish.
Sorry, sir.
Let me finish. Thank you.
He's wagging his finger at me.
I like this
and
part.
everything.
I like this part.
Because we are raised that way. You do not challenge, you do not question, even respectfully, you do not ask questions. So I know better. And you see all of it. So they just decide, oh, this is what you're going to study, this is what you're going to do. Everything is decided for you. And then, so the parents are even struggling to be affectionate to their children. And I was talking about it in the office today. I said, okay, a child is doing badly at school and you're beating him. Maybe he's being bullied. But because people don't even have that sort of relationship for him to tell you, mommy or daddy, look at what is going on in school.
Yeah.
Your child cannot even tell you when they are being sexually assaulted, when they are being abused by adults, because you don't have that sort of relationship. I remember at the time when my mom started asking me about sex, started asking me about relationship, I must have been like almost 20. And I'm like, sis, a day late and $1 short.
My mom still thinks I'm a virgin.
I'm sure she still thinks I'm a virgin. So
You know what, guys? I need you to pause and hold your thoughts, because we do need to take this break. When we come back, I want us to draw the line. Where exactly, where is this abuse coming from? What are
already gone and called it abuse?
No, what are the
abuse?
Well, hang on
I'm
a second.
sorry, it's animals that you flog.
Excuse me, let's take that break.
We need to take that break and come and sort
sorry.
this out. Stay here. It is Drive Time Discussions. Remember, you can send us WhatsApp messages and let us know your thoughts. 0809 444 0981.
Still the Drive Time Discussions here on Smooth 98.1, and trust me, our guest has not stopped talking since even after the mic was turned off. He's been going on and on and on. I'm like, well, I tell him that
Very
we are
passionate
not on
about this. Very passionate about this.
I see your experience. This is how you experience Franklin.
Franklin, take it easy, man. But
I'm very passionate about
I
this.
agree with you. Now, I don't get me wrong when I say that it was necessary. I do not. Some of the extreme situations or instances that you have talked about, I actually do not kind of like agree with. I would never. Yes, that you can. Unfortunately, these were we talked about this while the mics were off. So maybe you might want to give one or two of these instances of abuse that you talked about.
So look around you. You have parents who put pepper in the body parts of their children.
That's
okay,
extreme.
You suspect that your daughter is having sex. You put pepper in her vagina. Crying out loud. You bring copper wire, and then you flog your son because you found out he was smoking or he did something. You flog him till his back is bleeding. And then, so my point is, come on. And then let's not even forget physical. So there's the emotional, where your parents leave you second guessing yourself. And then you're supposed to inspire confidence in your child.
Yeah.
You're supposed to make your child feel like you're the best. Do you understand? How many people can honestly, I know how much you love and adore your parents, but how many people can honestly say that my mom, my dad inspired confidence in me, made me feel like, oh, I'm the champion, I'm the best. That's my point.
You know the funny thing, I was still talking to someone earlier today. This is a grown man who is like almost 40, and he was having real deep emotional turmoil. So I said, why? I kept pushing, like, what happened? What happened? And apparently it's words that he heard from his dad about himself. He felt put down, like, my dad says these things to me and I can't take them anymore. I feel less. I feel like I haven't achieved.
Even up until now,
like
that's the point.
It's not something the dad said when he was
He
young.
continues to say it?
He continues to say, like, as a
He's
grown
a
man,
grown man.
the
Easy to say.
dad talks to him like he hasn't achieved anything noteworthy, so he feels
Is his dad like a person of stature?
relatively somebody
in
of
society,
substance,
yeah.
financially.
You'll get that from the
And
You
then,
know,
and then,
yeah.
and so here's the thing. So it's very lazy parenting. I was talking about like physical flogging is lazy parenting. You just don't want to do the hard job of finding out why is this child acting this way and what can I do to fix it. A child is failing in class, you're flogging. Maybe he's in the wrong class.
Maybe he's dyslexic. Maybe he just can't
Exactly.
read.
There are so many things. Maybe you've pushed him into science class and he just doesn't like mathematics.
But
and you're
with
flogging
everything
him.
that you're
There's
talking
several
about,
things that you
everything
could do.
you're talking about now sounds like growing up in the 80s. I don't want to believe. Yeah, that's growing up in the 80s. I don't want to believe that is what's still.
It is happening.
We grew up in the
right
90s,
now.
right?
It is happening.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up
Yeah.
in the 90s,
Yeah.
but it
You-
is
are you-
happening.
Aren't you an 80s kid? You're an 80s kid. Name I can think you're a 90s kid.
Well, I was born in the late 80s, but I grew up in the 90s.
Okay, but
So,
we grew
no,
for
by
people
growing
born
up, I
in
mean at the point where you are aware of cautious of things happening
yeah,
around
that would
you.
be in the
I
90s.
would-
Yeah.
But it's still happening.
It would be worrying to think that kind of thing.
It is
still
happening. It
in
is
this
happening.
day and
It
age
is happening.
in places like Lagos or Abuja.
Oh my goodness!
Mazino.
It is
I
happening.
don't want to believe that.
My
Oh my
do you read
goodness.
the Metro section of newspapers?
Uh-huh.
No, I don't think
Well,
it does.
no, maybe
Yeah,
not-
that's
not
why
really a fan
that's
of it.
why you wouldn't know
I don't
because
think
you
it
hear
does.
some really sordid stories.
Of parents to
And then
to-
forgetting that you're an upper middle class Nigerian
Mm.
of a certain income level, so you're exposed to certain ideas and new age thinking and stuff. So the
Yep.
way you are raising your daughter, you're not the template for the average Nigerian parent.
Yep.
You're not.
Really? Well,
Yep.
Let's see what Lagos has to say. Sid Fadro here.
Yes.
Says, hi, Falama and our guests. You're right. We had toxic parents, but it had a beautiful effect on a lot of us.
Oh my goodness!
Wait now, chill, frankly.
Wait, how does that even work? I was toxic to you, but it had a beautiful effect.
Well,
on
maybe
you.
let's finish
yeah,
it.
let's
Let's see.
finish it.
Since I was stubborn while growing up, guys, my dad was a lecturer, and my mom was a very trained teacher. No nonsense over.
I know the
Drilled
combination.
me, but I am now a better
Drilled
man,
you. I'm sorry.
and I
Is
became
it the
independent.
military?
I became independent from 11 years, and I've been boiled. Is it boiled?
Bold. Or something.
Is it boiled and inquisitive? I don't get that.
I think it's
Inquisitive
bold. It's trying to
Bold,
say.
okay, bold and inquisitive while growing up. My son, #landlord, is a real reflection of me. Sincerely, my mom was really open-minded, and we were free with her at all times. She was my dad, my mom, my love, and my all ever since. He loved him forever, since 20 years. He says. Sincerely, she was hard on me. When I was a bit young, but when I entered SS1, she allowed me to bring my friends home. She was open to you, I guess. I'm praying for you. Soon you will make it, so don't give up.
So, obviously your mother was
Joe.
affirming. She encouraged you. She said all these words to
Oh.
you. And Daniel wants to know if you are a
Are
parent.
you a parent?
Myself.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to count my dog,
No, so he's not.
but I'm not a parent.
He's
But
not
here's
a
the
parent.
thing. And you know the interesting thing, Fola? So you see, our parents as parents and our parents as grandparents are two different people.
Yeah, that's my
That's
point
That's
from the
something
start of
I've
the
never
show.
been able to understand. So I look at my mom and her grandchildren, and I'm like, sis, you didn't let us get away with this, though.
Because
So why are you
grand-
doing this?
they're
So you've
older.
softened up. So
They're
what it
older.
means, you actually know you just chose differently, because my mom doesn't even she doesn't even raise her voice at her grandkids. She doesn't let you raise your voice at them.
Because grandchildren are like, eggs. You have
Yes.
to
And
pamper
once
them.
you tell them, oh, you're going to grandma's house, they're like, yay, because grandma's has no rules, there's no regimen, no timetable, nothing. Just play, eat. So they're just happy.
All right, we have another message here. What's this person's name? Please put your name.
Is it not him? It's who are we talking to here? Let's see. Hang on a second. I'm gonna drag that down. You didn't give us
Okay.
your name. It's Indy. All right. Do you wanna go?
Yeah, good evening, Smith family. This discussion should go beyond today. I understand the part of the Bible that says, spare the rod and spoil the child, but I think I was abused physically. I was flogged bad, and flogging does two things. One, fear, which will affect the future. Two, hardened heart. One, still affects me till date. I'm now learning to speak up for myself. Wanted to study vet medicine, and my dad says never in his house. Now I have a daughter and I'm changing the parenting style. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for being honest.
Alright.
This is what I'm talking about, and this is what you get. And I'm just, when people keep saying, oh, they flogged us but we turned out okay, I'm like, people are walking around with pain. How do you know you turned out okay?
No, but I got flogged and I turned out okay. I don't think I have any
I think
traumatic
most of
what's it
us
called
turn.
from-
The thing
So
is,
I'm
we need to
gonna-
know what is really turning out okay. Turning out okay in the sense that we didn't end up
Most
becoming
psychotic.
criminals.
In the Nigerian context, that is what
As
turning
long
out
as you
okay
don't end up
is.
becoming a criminal,
You're,
you know,
you're
my
okay.
social relationships were also not affected.
lucky you.
I know people would have, or maybe the extreme cases that would affect your social communications with people and,
Yeah.
and relationships.
It
and all
affected
that.
my
And it
social
could also
communication.
Were you
affect-
flogged? Were you weren't now. You were
That's the
numbing
thing.
now.
That's what people thought. So people used to think that okay, because I happen to be an only kid,
They wouldn't touch you.
they
with
wouldn't
10
touch me.
football.
I would all be pampered.
Don't
But
touch out.
it was the opposite.
Really?
Because yeah, my own parent was so afraid of anything happening to me that everything was extra. I think it was on this show. Okay, it was with Hawa that I told the story of how I was never allowed to have a boyfriend until
Nigerian parents allow
I got
anybody to
another
have a boyfriend.
No, see, this
Say
one
like
was
you're
different.
25
It
and
wasn't
they
like
not give you for your
no.
husband.
Okay, let me phrase it well. I was not allowed to be toasted.
Mm.
So what happened?
If someone toast you, get flogged.
Valentine's Day, I was in GSS 3. Boy buys me a Valentine card and those plastic red roses.
You made the mistake to take it home.
And I took
the
it home.
framed
Of
photo.
course I took it home. And then, but I couldn't put it inside the house. So we have this balcony where my mother puts her potted plants. So I hid it behind one of the potted plants.
In
And
plain
then she
sight.
woke up early to sweep and of
She
course
saw it.
water her plants. And she saw it and she opened the card and said, "So who is Ayo?" And then I said, I had to describe his one boy that lives
One boy
down the road.
Just down the
And
road.
early in the morning,
She
my
took
mom
you there.
said,
Please don't tell me she
took
took
me
you
by
there.
the hand,
African mother.
carried Koboko, and said,
Gangster.
take me to Ayo's house.
Gangster.
So we went there,
Classic
woke up
Nollywood.
Ayo and woke up his mother
Oh, yeah.
and warned her.
Warn your son.
This one, he never. Guess what happened? The next day, this Ayo goes to school. He went to school and then he told everybody.
Oh.
And so, until throughout secondary school,
They tag you as you were
no.
tagged.
See,
Don't
everybody
worry.
got axed out. People got
Except you.
was just
I can
me.
imagine the social effect. I can
It
imagine.
had
That's what
the,
we're talking about.
it had a terrible social effect,
That's
but
what
then
we're
it also
talking
led
about.
to something because when other girls of 16, 17 were dating boys of 16, 17, at 15 years old, my first boyfriend was 25. He was in university. Yeah, because the boys of my age would not come to me.
Ooh, now we're talking.
So this is what I'm talking about. The opposite effect sometimes happens when we try so hard.
Yeah, and you know the funny thing? So I like the point she raised. Flogging hardens children. So that's what it does. Because I wasn't flogged because I was the youngest, and I think
Baby of the house.
I came when my parents were done having children. I joked to my mom that I was just a failure of birth control. I'm sure you didn't plan me because there's like 6 years between me and the next person. So I was like this, this breakable plate don't touch. So I never, but I could see my sister would be like, yo, I'm gonna do it higher. Daddy will flog me 6. Most days flog me 12. I will do it. And it was an offense for me to cry. She would beat me. And then when my dad comes back, he'll flog her. And the following day, she'll beat you again. And she say, Daddy will get tired. It became of no effect to her. Because, I said, that's what happens. You harden children. And sometimes when children are acting out, there are several, I'm not a parent, I'm not a child psychologist, but I believe there are several things that are going on. I went to terrible bullying in school. And it got to some point I was suicidal. And nobody knew. Nobody could notice it. And one term I slipped from the top of the class. It was like sacrilege. Nobody asked me why, what happened. And if they had probed, I would have told them what was happening to me in school. But nobody, and that's my point.
I saw a video of a child trying to do a homework. It was a skit actually.
Maraji?
I saw that
Is it
skit, and that
Maraji?
skit,
I
I think
can't
it's
remember
her,
what it was.
and that
Yeah.
skit really annoyed me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but this thing is triggering for me. I don't like it.
It's
Wanna
annoying
explain
to
the
you,
skit
but
first
it's
so Lagos understands what it
reality.
is?
Okay, so the skit is about a child doing maths homework, and the mother was sitting on this child's head
With a cane.
cane.
Which is how a lot of
Which
people
is
did
how,
homework.
yes, I did homework like that.
And imagine if she
They
had
don't-
brought oranges and say, okay, so
yeah,
these are
count
6
it.
oranges. Okay, I've removed 4. How many do you have here? Okay, if you get it, you eat 1. Is that not easier?
Parents are supposed
Is that
to
not
help
easier?
you do your homework, not terrorize you, because they're not even helping.
We got more messages, lady.
Yes.
Gentlemen.
Oh my goodness.
This
This
is
is a long one.
let's see. MC here says, so I think we blame and criticize our parents for the way they raised us. Not to say that they were the best of parents, but we need to cut them some slack, guys.
Yeah.
First, people go into parenthood without any experience. You are never a parent until you're a parent. Many of the things they did was from the amount of information they had at their disposal. Many of our parents didn't know that didn't know the needs of their generation were different from our own, and they did their best with only our own interests at heart. Of course, making many mistakes in the process.
Yeah.
They just didn't know. I admit my own parents made their own mistakes, but there are parts of their parenting style that I'll be using on my own children. Millennial parents, let's take note. Oh, it's a long one. Let's take note of the tendency to blame, pick out mistakes, but still passing on the same toxic traits to our children.
Yeah.
Let's make changes where necessary.
So I agree with EMEC, but where I disagree with her is, so we can agree that, okay, you did what you knew or what you thought was the best, but this is really not the best. I always say we can talk and chew gum. We can have both conversations at the same time. We can say with the limited information you had, you thought this was okay, but here it is not okay. And why these conversations are important is for people like us, so that you understand that when you're having your own children, you have to do certain things differently.
All right, we'll take another break. When we come back, we'll take more messages. 0809 444 0981. Our guest in the studio this evening is Franklin. Franklin, what's your last name again? Ikediaso. We'll be right back. This is Drive Time Discussions. Kai, I want to put Mazino and Franklin in a room.
I think you should just give us gloves.
And just,
Just give us gloves.
I don't know, I probably would put them on a podcast together and just let them slug it out.
No, but the truth is, this guy is me 10 years ago. Yeah,
He's you like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'm
But
just
then,
looking at
but then that's the thing, though. That's the thing. It's condescendingly amusing for you to think that at this stage I've not figured out what I want in life and who I want to
Sorry,
be.
sir.
It's
Sorry,
condescendingly
sir.
amusing, but I'll let that slide.
No, sorry, sir. I
I
apologize.
am done. I'm done. Can we please read the messages?
I'm not reading again before
Yeah,
Franklin will say, read one grammar for me. Okay, let's do this.
Okay.
Okay, you want to do it? Please.
Yeah, he says most 80s kids had similar upbringing, and truthfully, we turned out fine with stable emotions and good judgment. Let's not try to be acting westernized and use
There they are. I'll be waiting for them.
standards to determine parenting standards.
I'll be waiting for them.
Flogging stopped in the 90s.
True.
And what we have is the Malian generation.
Oh, yeah.
I shudder
Is that
to
even
think
real?
of the offsprings of the Malian generation. Even me, I'm afraid of them. Saying that flogging makes you timid isn't true. African parents raised us same way, and people in Kenya, Egypt stand up to their government. Same. Give me African parents any day.
Ajax.
And it says Franklin is young, and it shows.
Franklin is 33, by the way.
Oh, see, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Where are you going? Oh, my friend, come and sit down here. Are you 40? You're not even 40
Franklin is
yet.
33, by the way. So I'm amused for you to think Franklin is young. I think I'm 27.
Aw, Franklin.
I recall once as a kid, I took a comb belonging to a friend. My mom took it, beat me with it, and told me stealing is not in our family. I'll tell you one story about leggings.
Okay, sorry.
But that lesson could
And
have also
then-
been learned without the beating.
And then he said that was the last time I stole. Talking me through it would definitely not achieve that impact. Please beware of all these fanciful self-esteem arguments. I grew up in the environment and have a crazy high self-esteem. Life itself is hard, and treating them with child gloves will not make them ready for life. Daniel says, my daughter cries because she's struggling to fuse our Lego and she's rolling on the floor and throws them away. They always want instant gratification every day, every time. I'm just picturing that. And that's
Very
crazy
true.
funny.
Hilarious.
That happens. Do we have any more?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
What's that?
Says,
Are you guys even for real? I don't believe anyone should physically and mentally abuse a child.
Thank you.
Discipline is necessary for kids, or else they'll basically push you around and turn out to be spoiled brats. Dude with the dog, you need to toughen up. At least we don't have kids shooting up schools.
oh yeah. Point.
Easy
I'd
times
like to respond
create
to that, but let's continue.
Easy times create weak men. Weak men create tough times. Tough times create tough men. Tough men create easy times.
Aspire to aspire to
This
aspire.
is it's a cycle. The guy with the dog, I did see you.
Are they
His
talking to
name
me?
is
My name is Frank, the guy
Which
with
one
the
is
dog.
the guy with the dog?
Wow,
Oh, you
I've
left him a
come this
memorable
far to be called the
instance
guy
to
with the
refer to you
dog.
with.
And his name is Cooper, by the way. He's not the dog.
Oh, Cooper's daddy. Okay,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Oh, okay.
He prefers this.
He prefers that. Yinka here. What?
I was trying to read Rinka's message because you've sent him message before, and I'm sure Franklin has a lot to get off of his mind before we leave in the next 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes,
So
please.
Yinka, apologies, but I want to hear from Franklin. These might be his closing
Yeah,
statements.
so I actually like that someone talked about stress. And I was telling you offline, I can draw parallels between parents who are unhappy, a lot of things, economic situations, bad marriages. I see a lot of women who are very, mothers who are very abusive to their children. And I could just tell that this woman is taking out the situation with the child's parent, the child's dad, on the child. So you can draw a lot of parallels with, it happens a lot. You can do a lot of parallels. And when you probe these parents, that are, you see that they are lashing out. It's the pressure that they can't handle
I've seen
that they are
fathers
lashing
who
out.
lashed out. I once lived with a couple, and the dad was a terrorist.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
Masquerade.
He was a terrorist. He's driving from the junction. As soon as the kids hear, they know the sound of their father's car.
Volvo 244.
Peugeot 504.
Everybody was scattered.
Peugeot
He
504.
comes in also any form
Fancy
of
scatter.
joy. It's like he literally
He
sucks,
sucks
the joy
everything
out of the room.
And then you glory in that.
And you know why?
I'm the man of the
I'm the man of the
And
house.
at the end of the day,
Head.
I after a while, you know, as I grew older and interacted with him, I realized that a lot of times, even when you know he has like 3 kids and they're really young, when they do something wrong, he beats them to the extreme. A lot of times, he's not so
Sorry.
the anger is the anger he's bringing from wherever he's
That's
coming
my
from.
point.
It has nothing to do with what this child
That's
has
my
done.
point.
A lot of times he's just angry, and sometimes the women, you see this thing you say about women and bad marriages too. Most of us women, especially when you know you're with a man that things are not going smoothly, the only time you express or you can take
Is
out
with
the
the
anger.
child.
God now help you if you look like your father.
Oh.
They will
But
take
you
it out
remind
on
her
you.
of the mistake in her life.
They will take it out.
And
on
you know the funny thing, the biggest lesson I've learned from my mom, which I've never forgotten, we're going somewhere in the night. I was taking her to the airport. It was really late, it was like 2 a.m. And I was going to run a red light. And so when she said stop, and then we stopped, it was red, it was in Port Harcourt. And then when it became green, we moved. And she turned to me and she said, always do the right thing, even if nobody's watching. That's the biggest lesson she taught me. She probably doesn't remember this, but I tell her, and that her voice stays with me. Certain times where I have had to debate my morals, but internally, but I remember her voice tells me always do the right thing, even when nobody's watching. That lesson did not need a cane, did not need anything.
It didn't
but
need slap.
It didn't need slap, but it's stuck in my head. Sometimes all you need to do is have your child sit down. This is why what you did is wrong, and this is how it made me feel, and this is how it makes our family look. And I know you don't want that. Why are you causing us pain? Sometimes that gets to the child more than a king, more than why are you causing this? And then you have a conversation. I feel it's more effective. Just all of this physical, it's lazy parenting. I'm sorry.
I would like to end by saying this, and it's exactly what I said when we started. At the information that was
Available at the time.
For our parents and everything,
It was okay.
It was okay. I
agree.
got beaten, and I'm okay. I'm not
How you
going.
know?
I am perfectly okay.
How you know?
I am not going to.
Imagine
I am not going to look back at my parents and say that you guys did a bad job. No, I'm gonna say thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom. And it's only just now because we have all this information. We read far. We're much more exposed and everything. That we would be able to use this scenario that you are trying to paint for us. This suggestion that you're giving. Yes, and it will work as well. But at that time, it was necessary. At least in moderation, it was absolutely necessary.
And it's important for us to also let people know that, well, that time has passed.
It has
Let's do
passed.
better
I agree with you.
Which is
Can
why
be
we're
better.
having this conversation. Let's do better
I've
now.
never beat my baby. I only talk to her.
Yeah, and it works. And see how logical she is.
It works.
From what
It
you
works
say.
actually. Very, very true.
Children who raised that way are brighter. They are more
confident.
Much more confident.
articulate.
The confidence
Smart.
is
I
Very
look at my
confident.
friends' children and I'm
Very
like, hey, God.
confident.
See, articulate children.
My nephew breaks down his feelings when you hurt him. He said, "This is what you did, uncle, and this is how he made me feel,
Yeah,
and I do not
that's
appreciate
true.
it." He's very polite, but he breaks it down for you.
We will talk about kids forever if we
I
keep
know.
going. We gotta end the show.
But it's been really, really fun
It has.
on Drive Time Discussions today. Thank you so much,
I even had
Franklin.
personal messages on my own.
Oh,
what's it
wow.
called?
On your own WhatsApp. I mean...
It's quite interesting.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll be here again on Drive Time Discussions, definitely having another fun conversation. Of course, we'll also be on the Smooth Drive from 4 p.m. If you missed out on the early parts of this conversation or any parts of the Smooth Drive, check us out on social media. If you missed the top 5, we're on IGTV, you can check it out. And of course, this episode will be on our YouTube channel in a few hours, so you can check it out later and catch up on the whole thing. So stay blessed. We'll be here again tomorrow.
Not me.
Thank you.